The US government viewed its involvement in the war as a way to prevent a communist takeover of South Vietnam. This was part of the domino theory of a wider containment policy, with the stated aim of stopping the spread of communism. The domino theory in question was a belief that once communism reached South Vietnam through the North Vietnamese, it would cause a domino effect to the rest of the world, spreading more and more communism. Now, of course, the US couldn't have that, so we had to contain it. One of the most emblematic battles of the Vietnam War was the Battle of Hamburger Hill, which was the scene of an intense and controversial battle during the Vietnam War. Known to military planners as Hill 937, which was a reference to its height in meters, the solitary peak was located in the dense jungles of the A Shau Valley of Vietnam, about a mile from the border with Laos. Though the hill had no real tactical significance, taking the hill was part of Operation Apache Snow, a US military sweep of the A Shau Valley. The purpose of the operation was to cut off North Vietnamese infiltration from Laos and enemy threats to the cities of Hue and Da Nang. Just like the war as a whole, the Battle of Hamburger Hill sparked a lot of outrage back in the United States. This was because of the tactical insignificance of the hill and the loss faced during the battle. In fact, soldiers' reports from the battle claimed that it was so gory and bloody that it was like being in a meat grinder, thus the name Hamburger Hill. The battle itself displays a lot of development of technology and tactics from both sides of the war, the Americans and the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong. The Americans used technology which emerged from the Vietnam War, both in infantry and in the air. Common technology used includes the M16 gun, which was less heavy and easier to control than the previous M14. In addition to infantry weapons, many aircrafts were developed and used in this battle, particularly the Bell UH-1 Iroquois, dubbed Huey, which was developed due to the inability to use tanks in the dense forests of Vietnam. They had high mobility and were heavily armored and armed. In addition to Huey, other planes such as the B-52 Bomber, the F-4 Phantom, and particularly the F-105 Thunder Chief, which had anti-radar missiles which allowed it to bypass a lot of the North Vietnamese anti-aircraft technology, were used to aid the infantry. On the side of the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong, they were equipped with AK-47s which had a fast rate of fire and were highly durable, which made them highly suitable to the Vietnamese environment. In addition to the AK-47, they were known to use booby traps, both explosive and non-explosive, to slow down the enemies. They caused severe and long-lasting psychological effects in addition to their physical wounds. The non-explosive ones included punji sticks, bear traps, crossbow traps, and double-spike caltrops. Explosive traps included mud ball mines, grenade and tin can mines, and cartridge traps. However, what was possibly their most effective weapon against the US was their anti-aircraft systems, which were largely supplied to them by the Soviets and Chinese after the US started their bombing efforts. These included MiG interceptors, radar links, surface-to-air missiles or SAMs, all of which took a heavy toll on the US Air Force. In addition to the technology used in Hamburger Hill, it was an emblematic battle due to the tactics. The Americans' technology proved to be rather ineffective with their B-52 bombers, artillery, helicopters, napalm, and defoliants such as Agent Orange, because they killed many innocent civilians and failed to stop Viet Cong guerrillas. Many of their other tactics proved to be just as ineffective. These included controlling the locals, where peasants were forced to leave Viet Cong-controlled areas and forced to live in strategic hamlets in loyal areas. This created immense opposition to the Americans and allowed Viet Cong infiltrators into the loyal safe areas. In addition to this, the Americans were known to use soldier bait, where they sent American troops out on patrols and supported from the air and artillery when attacked. The patrols were sent out looking for Charlie, as they called the Viet Cong, and were often killed due to their visibility and their vulnerability. This demoralized soldiers and led to atrocities such as Zippo raids and burning villages, and the unprovoked massacre of peaceful villagers. The Viet Cong, on the other hand, relied much more on guerrilla-style fighting than the Americans with their high-tech war. They were known to ambush US patrols by setting booby traps, landmines, and planting bombs in towns. In addition to this, they mingled in with peasants wearing ordinary clothing so Americans couldn't identify who the real enemy was. They were also known to stay extremely close to American troops, or hanging on to their belts, so the US could not use air or artillery backup without killing their own men. The Viet Cong had a bountiful supply of weapons through Russia and China, which were delivered to them along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, a jungle route through Laos and Cambodia. The Battle of Hamburger Hill was actually part of a larger objective to destroy this trail so that the Viet Cong could not receive supplies from Russia and China. The US could not directly attack Russia and China without risking escalating the war, therefore their best option was to create a large scheme to destroy the trail. By looking closer at the technology and tactics of the Battle of Hamburger Hill and the Vietnam War as a whole, we can get a better sense for the feelings, motives, and philosophies of both sides, therefore making it crucial to look at them critically.